Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Pot Smoker's Bible. My name is Zion. I'm the author of the Pot Smoker's Bible, which contains the prophetic book of Zion, where I get my name and authority. It comes from the Ketuvim, or Old Testament of the Christian Bible. I used my great uncle King James's version of the Christian Bible in order to put together the prophecy of Israel, which I wrote into the Book of Zion. The Book of Zion is written completely in Bible verse, and so I could not publish it by itself because I was required to write 75% of the text that I was to publish. And that is why I wrote the commentary to the Book of Zion, which I named the Pot Smoker's Bible. And I'm beginning the first chapter of the Pot Smoker's Bible today. It's called The Gray, and it goes like this. From the beginning of the human race, as we know it, there has only ever been one authority, God. It doesn't matter who you ask, it doesn't matter where on earth you go. God has always been the authority on earth from the beginning of recorded history. But who is God? No matter where you go on earth, no matter who you ask if they believe, you will always be told names. For some, you'll be given a lot of names, and for others, you'll be given a single name. But names are for individuals to keep separate single identities. A name tells us nothing about the individual who uses that name. Who or what is God then? Most humans look to ancient writings to find God. That's where all the names come from. They read the ancient script and they accept it without question. What um, they accept without question what they read. Then, as all storytellers do, they embellish, they interpret, they add to those ancient stories. This is where myths come from. But that only confuses the issue. The ancient writings are where our understanding of God comes from, but it doesn't explain God. But those ancient writings come from a relatively primitive people. What they saw and experienced was fantastic to their simple, primitive minds. And their vocabulary was very limited. They did not understand how to explain what they experienced. So they left us with vague, simple, and primitive language to explain what they saw and experienced. So we must look beyond their limited vocabulary to see the true nature of their experience, beginning with their true meaning of the word God. The oldest known meaning of the word God comes from the Assyrians of Mesopotamia. To them, it meant those who from the heavens came. God, no matter which one you choose, comes from above. So the true modern interpretation of the word God would be aliens. Every God known to mankind is a God from heaven, except Jesus Christ, of course. He was said to be a hybrid born of the alien God. All of them were heavenly beings that could fly. Many images of God shows them with wings. It would stand to reason that a God from heaven could fly, because only through flight could an alien descend from space. So the true God is an alien. God is an alien. He comes from beyond our planet. He flies in our skies. He looks down on us. Our search for the true authority on earth, then, is the search for the aliens. Because all we know about God is that he is not from here. The true God is an alien God. So our modern interpretation of God is UFO, or as we call them, the gray. There is no other explanation for God as we know God. Our modern scientific mind forgets that the ancient meaning of God was those who from the heavens came, or alien. So when we look up into the sky and we see our modern God, we think UFO. But UFOs are exactly what the ancients saw. They could not identify spaceships or their occupants. But unlike us, they embraced their alien god because the aliens were their creators. The ancient humans tell us that God was the creator. The aliens came to Earth and created mankind, or humanity. No ancient human would have doubted God's authority on Earth, or the right to that authority, because our forefathers knew God, accepted God as the creator. So if we are to accept the ancient text, re-examined in modern terms, we realize that we are alien made. The gods literally made us in their own image, just as we are told. They came here, they created us, they ruled over us. They are aliens, and we owe them our very existence. We are their children. Our modern interpretation of ancient texts tells us that we are a hybrid, genetically enhanced Neanderthal. So that begs the question, why were we created? The aliens must have had a reason. Now, according to the ancient cuneiform texts, we were created to be a labor force. Our job was to mine for gold and other metals. Why? Why didn't they just come down here and mine it for themselves? Well, according to Ishi, it's because they can't breathe our air. We were created of earthly DNA to breathe oxygen. They breathe nitrogen. So our air is deadly to them. That's why we were created, to do for them what they could not do for themselves. We were created because they needed us. They needed intelligent, oxygen-breathing creatures to gather supplies for them. And we were enhanced proto-humans, given their DNA to make us smarter, able to understand what they needed. That is why we were created. We call them gray. But according to Ishi, they are blue-skinned, like the Hindu depictions. The gray encounter suits that we see them in aren't their true appearance, but that is how we see them. The huge slanted eyes are goggles to protect and enhance their vision. They seem scary as hell to us, but imagine a primitive race seeing us in huge spacesuits. We would look as alien to them as the gray spacesuits look to us. We call them gray. That's not accurate. But they accept that name for our sake. So the gray, who are blue, are the children of the ancient gods, just as we are descendants from the people that knew them. Our myth of God is that he is eternal. But that is only a myth. The gray, who know their own history and ours, are not eternal beings. They are flesh and blood, just as we are. Their race has generations, just as we do. That is why there are so many ancient names for God. Each name represents an individual physical being. Each new generation came with a new name. That is why the name for God is I am that I am, Yahweh, then Jehovah. Of course, those are the Hebrew names. There are other names from other locations: Krishna, Shiva, Baal, Thor, Ishtar, Zeus, everywhere, everyone. Allah is one of the latest. The names for God go on and on, but they were people with individual names, each name a different alien god, a person who came from heaven. Ishi is one of their names. Actually, the ancient Grey foretold the name Ishi, sending that name through time. When I began talking with Ishi, I chose that name for him because of that ancient message. And he told me that I could never say his name. His language is telepathic and spoken in images as well as in words. Ishi, the name the ancients chose for the first contact, the Grey of our time, is my chosen name for my friend who is Grey. My conversations with Ishi began in the 1990s. We have spoken many times. He is the father of my hybrid Grey daughter, Rihanna, the oldest of my Grey children. My many Grey children? My daughter Rihanna was the first hybrid to survive, and her creation almost killed me. She barely survived, but she has my strong German farmer DNA in her, so she lived. Her birth story was the first conversation that Ishi and I ever had. I have contact with other aliens as well, but I speak mainly to Ishi and Rihanna. We speak through our implanted human, who is their channel. He has the ability to exchange consciousness with them. We have had what we call a visit. Although our visits are mainly within our family unit, I have had other visitors as well. Although I have had many visits with them, I haven't been abducted like many others. They did not want me to be traumatized like other humans. It was necessary for me to trust them so that I can undo the damage done by the abductions of other humans. The abductions were forced upon them by our governments, who refused to use their Grey technology for the benefit of humanity. The atom bomb was a direct violation of the agreement between the governments and the Grey. By violating that agreement, our leaders forced the Grey to go to extreme measures in order for them to survive. If the Grey had not abducted humans, their race would have become extinct. The reason they left was to preserve their DNA within us. We have their genetic makeup as well as earthly DNA. That Grey DNA is what saved their race. They had to use our Grey DNA to to so that they had no choice but to take what the government was unwilling to give in safe exchange. The reason our DNA had to be protected for future use was because they had to resort to using cloning to survive. As we ourselves know, cloning it cannot be sustained. The DNA degrades over generations. They return to as promised. When their cloning DNA degraded to a critical level, they protected our DNA to preserve their own species. So may the Grey watch over you, guide you, protect you, and keep you from all harm. May they teach you right from wrong, and may you be worthy of them. May your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect truth, good, and light, the unicorn way, and may you find your joy and pursue it. Stay happy and high. I'll finish this next time. Later now, because I'll never say goodbye.